We settle on young Michael in line. He passes Gunther. He remains eager, but it is goodbye. These soldiers moving into the darkness and towards death. Gunther looks on, tears in his eyes. The two horses are uneasy, sensing tension. A few minutes later, Gunther grabs the saddle and throws it onto Joey's back. Oh, wrong page, sorry. Back to the soldiers. Suddenly, we see the galloping legs of two horses. They whip past the back of the line of marching soldiers. It's clear what is happening. Gunther is on Topthorn and has hold of Joey, on a loose rope, galloping beside him. Gunther, galloping along the line of soldiers, spots what he is looking for, a red pennant unfurled and flapping in the wind, tied onto Michael's pack. Gunther speeds towards him. This was his plan all along, and in an instant he is beside him, and without Michael ever realising, he suddenly finds his arms and legs akimbo, and he is yanked out of the line and dragged along the ground desperately close to Joey's pounding hooves. Michael looks at the soldiers beside him. He looks at the skyline of violence ahead, but before he can decide, he feels his brother's arm pulling him upwards, and now the two of them are fully on Topthorn. They leave a jumble of soldiers in their wake as the officers try to restore order.
Get back in line! Line!
Exterior, woods, later. Michael now rides Joey, following Gunther on Topthorn. The brothers look at each other, can't believe what they have done. Michael is following his brother, swept along, doesn't know if it is right. And Michael and Gunther and Topthorn charge onto freedom. They spot a lonely house and burst past a line with some drying clothes. As they ride, they grab civilian shirts and jackets and trousers, the clothes pegs pinging off and falling to the ground. And on they ride, though all too soon day starts to break in the far distance. They see a very dilapidated windmill. They aim for it as the sun begins to seriously break over the horizon. Interior, exterior, windmill, dawn. They reach the windmill. It feels very unused. The machinery of the windmill creaks in the dawn. The brothers untether the horses, careful now that it is light outside.
I'm hungry. Did you bring the food?
I'm sorry.
Michael fingers the pennant on Joey's reins, then...
Will father be ashamed?
He will pretend to be. Maybe at first he will be, but in the end, he will be glad.
And us? What about us?
Gunther looks at him but doesn't reply as Michael removes Joey's saddle.
I was ready to go. I was proud to go.
After a beat, in a very small voice.
I wanted to go.
Later, they sit in silence, waiting for sleep.
The food in Italy is good.
Yes.
What about the women?
Not as good as the food.
Because they've eaten too much of the food.
You are too young for war, and you're too young for women.
Gunther laughingly pushes him over.
I don't feel so young. Not anymore.
Michael.
What?
Go to sleep. We have a big night of riding ahead. Good night, Michael.
He jokingly strokes Michael's cheek. Michael swats him away, but as he settles in the hay...
Night, night, Gunther.
Exterior, windmill, dusk. Gunther and Michael sleep. Suddenly, something awakes Joey. He stirs and then rises, hears the sound of engines and sees through the lights the slats sweeping across Joey's face. Michael and Gunther are stirring in their sleep as we hear a car and several motorcycles approaching. Headlamps filter through the cracks in the windmill walls, stabbing the brothers awake.
Ben's back now.
Good.
Yeah, carry on for a bit. I need to find the script, so I can carry on.
Are you
now.
sure? You sure,
Yeah,
Ben?
I'll jump in a bit, yeah.
Okay.
High in the wind moon.
The boys spring up, speaking in terrified whispers. The officer accepts this grimly, nods. Have I got that right, or have I missed a page?
Boys spring up, speaking in terrified whispers.
No, I've got terrified whispers. Sorry, I didn't turn over. It's Gunther now.
Go, go, go.
¿Qué? Did that come up? ¿Qué?
Oh, yeah, I got it now. Sorry, I didn't hear the okay. They race up in a nearby ladder, but Michael stumbles against a table, upsetting some gear. It clatters loudly. They cower as they hear boots tromping up the stairs outside. Then the windmill doors are thrown open, pinning them into the bright lights of the vehicles. As they marched out, we see what they see, a German car, 2 motorcycles, 6 Germans, including the officer who was in charge of them.
Schreider!
Yes, sir.
A mistake?
He's offering an excuse, but
A promise.
Yeah.
the officer... As the boys are taken away, he lights a cigarette. It's been all right. Interior, windmill, night. Through the turning arms of the windmill, we glimpse the double execution. 4 rifles fire, flashes of the soldiers shooting, the bodies on the ground. Exterior, outside the windmill, day. Complete stillness in the empty countryside. Interior, the windmill, day. There are Joey and Topthorne still waiting. And then suddenly the doors of the windmill creak. The 2 horses turn, immensely aware of the break in the silence. The door opens a little and we see, reflected in Joey's eye, a very delicate, beautiful 13-year-old country girl, Emilie. She stares at the horses. They stare right back at her. And she walks straight out again, closing the big door behind her. Joey and Topthorne settle for a moment. Time transition. Joey and Topthorne are in a slightly different place, and the door opens again. It is the same little girl, but this time she comes in carrying 2 buckets full of water. Interior, exterior, farmhouse, farm, day. A small, humble farmhouse, and round it small fields planted with the different fruit crops. We see an old man, grandfather, burdened with a basket of berries, heading back towards the farmhouse. A sound causes him to look out across the farm. Far in the distance, the storm of war is in the sky. He enters the kitchen, which is rough but full of the paraphernalia of jam making, jars, sieves, pectin, sugar. Emilie is at the sink, washing berries.
Grandpa?
He heads towards the sideboard, dumps the 2 bags and lifts the first handful of fruits onto the counter. She empties her clean berries into a bowl, notes the explosions outside.
It's closer today.
The wind plays tricks with the noise. It's moving away from us.
I can hear it, Grandpa. And there is no wind. You shouldn't lie to me.
Here, there is no wind here. But over there, a wind so strong it will lift you off the ground.
You lie about everything. You say you aren't worried, but it's clear you are. I know the war is approaching, but you say, oh, it's just a trick of the wind.
He retrieves a bottle of medicine from the mantel.
Did
Smiling.
I say that?
Sorry.
You started lying when Mama and Papa went away.
She pours a load of sugar into a bowl with the fruit.
They're dead, but you won't say so. Do you think I'll die if you tell me the truth?
The truth is,
He feeds
Oh,
her
sorry.
food.
He feeds her medicine.
you should speak to your elders with respect.
She sticks her wet finger in the sugar and sucks it to help with the taste of the medicine.
If you tell me the truth about the war, I will tell you the truth about the big horses I've been keeping in the windmill.
Standing, putting his hands on his hips.
Now, who is the one telling lies?
Exterior courtyard, same. Grandfather looks stunned as he paces in front of Joey and Topthorne, who stand in the small courtyard outside the house.
In the windmill?
Yes, they were standing in the windmill, waiting for Don Quixote. This is Francois, and this is Claude.
Yeah.
I named them after the 2 boys who broke my heart last summer.
They must belong to someone. Horses like this don't just appear from a fairy tale.
Yes, I know, Grandpa. They are not unicorns, so I'll be fair and wait 1 day.
Emilie, Emilie.
And if no one comes to get them by night time, then they belong to me.
Emilie, look at me. You cannot ride.
Mother used to tell me how my bones would give way with even the slightest bump or fall.
Yes, that's right. So it is settled.
She kisses his cheek,
A good girl.
but then calmly leads the horses back to the windmill.
It will only be settled when I decide which one to ride first.
But it's over my dead body.
At least I won't have long to wait.
That is the end of the conversation as far as she is concerned. Exterior, farmhouse, day. Emilie is with the horses in the little stable at the end of the courtyard, a bit away from the farmhouse. She is feeding them out of a bucket, not very nice gruel. We see that she is hesitant with them, that she has spent no time around horses. Emilie to Joey.
I was in love with a boy called Francois, who had your lovely eyes.
To Claude.
Unfortunately, he was in love with a girl called Marie, who had your teeth. She fell for a boy called Claude, who broke my heart, and who I intend to marry one day.
Interior, exterior field in front of the farmhouse, day. Grandfather watches Emilie from inside the house as she makes jam.
Eyes on
Emilie
me.
outside, sorry.
Eyes on me. No talking.
Outside, Emilie has fashioned 2 jumps, the big one for Joey and a little demonstration obstacle for herself. She leads Joey to a starting point about 30 yards in front of some crates, supporting a stick around 4 feet off the ground. The red pennant hangs from the stick. Joey stands quietly as Emilie hobbles to the big jump, making a jumping gesture with her hand.
Today we learned to jump. Did you know the French cleared 1 metre 85 at the Paris Olympics to win the gold medal? Today we will beat that record.
Grandfather chuckles. Emilie indicates the larger barrier.
This is your jump. When I call you, be very brave and leap over it.
She claps, but Joey doesn't move.
Leap over it. Watch me.
She turns to her demonstration jump and easily steps over her 6-inch high barrier.
And now it's your...
She turns to find Joey already stepping over her mini jump, stopping in front of her. He's only interested in the apple in her hand. She takes a bite herself. Jump to... Emilie returns Joey to the starting line and returns back behind the big jump. From behind her back, she produces 3 big carrots dripping soil. Joey's ears perk and he takes off quickly, but at the last moment veers right and passes between the 2 jumps.
Can I jump in?
Yes, go. You're back. Good.
Interior
Thank you.
farmhouse, day. Grandfather is watching through the window as he prepares his strawberry jams. He laughs and goes back to work. Back to the field. Where she's being watched, she slings the carrot over her shoulder, frustrated. Jump to exterior barn later. Joey slowly emerges from the barn with Emilie out in front, leading out the way with one hand. In her other hand, she carries a small wooden stepladder.
He doesn't think we can do it, but we will show him, won't we?
Emilie unfolds the ladder beside Joey and shakily starts climbing to the top of it. Her voice is shaking.
No need to be afraid.
Emilie looks down and how far off the ground she is.
You are very tall.
Before she can swing her leg over Joey's back,
You'll kill yourself.
Emilie turns and there, blocking the hurdle, now standing hands on hip, is Grandfather.
Only if you get in my way to make me fall.
Oh, please come off the lad.
A sound from far down the road. Grandfather looks. Emilie turns to look too. 2 trucks led by German motorcycles are approaching the farm.
Find somewhere to hide them, and do it quickly.
As Emilie races off with the horses, Grandfather pushes over the jumps and jams the pennant into his pocket. The bikes arrive first, just missing Emilie as she leads the horses behind the house. The trucks then arrive, pull round. One of the soldiers in the front jumps out and opens the back.
Halt und aussteigen.
The people, 20 of them, all seeming to be poor French peasants, mainly women, move out of the truck. As they walk past, they avoid the eye contact of the grandfather, who approaches the soldiers.
My name is Bonnard. This is my land. Why are you here?
Food for the soldiers at the front. Everyone must give their share.
And suddenly we see what is going to happen. The 20 peasants spread out and move through the field with either bags or using the aprons that they wear, taking all the fruits. At just the moment, all the workers brought forth fruit and the New Year's crop is ready. Raspberries, blackcurrants, gooseberries. In a few minutes, everything he lives by will be gone. Watching from his car and calmly smoking his cigar is Brandt, the officer in charge of the unit. Cut to the fields, the aprons and the baskets are getting full. They move through the rows of fruit like a plague of locusts. Back to the grandfather, and out of the house comes Emilie.
They are taking everything. Where are the horses?
A pause.
What horses?
The sound of jars breaking draws grandfather and Emilie into the kitchen, and the Germans continue to raid the other supplies. One German picks up a water bath canner, inspecting it.
What is it?
Leave it if you don't know what it's for.
A pot is a pot. We'll find some use for a pot, sir. Where is the wet livestock?
He sits quietly, using his finger to scoop jam from the open jar.
I make jam. We have no animals.
But there's fresh hay in the barn.
Emilie enters, overhearing.
We use it to replace the mattress stuffings.
Her grandfather?
Yes.
Where are her parents?
Emilie breaks in.
They're dead. They died.
The German nods and is about to take his leave, putting the pot back where he found it, when a clumping noise from somewhere in the house begins.
What is that?
The wind. It plays tricks in the attic.
Brandt licks his finger and tests.
There is no wind.
An old house creaks.
And
Go
turns
close
to-
the shutters.
Emilie runs out of the house. The soldier picks up the medicine bottle.
Oh, that's me.
That's
She's
it.
sick. She's sickly. No, is that me?
If you or any of your friends harm her, old as I am, I will kill you.
The soldier looks shocked and then begins to laugh. He slaps the medicine flask into the grandfather's chest.
You know, I was going to kill you, back your pot, but now I'm going to keep it for soup.
He slings a huge pot he had put back on his shoulder and leaves the house with the other soldiers.
We will be back in the morning, in the new season.
As the Germans leave, we cut to the upstairs bedroom where Emilie lies curled up on the bed. And there, standing on either side of the bed, are the two horses. They look huge in her tiny room. Interior kitchen, later that night. The sound of shells exploding. A huge bombardment somewhere in the deep distance, but much closer than before. The distant malicious giants of war growl. It is like a lightning storm on the horizon. The kitchen has been emptied. The war has finally come to them. We can see it on Emilie's face.
Tell me what happened to them. To my mother and father.
Grandfather doesn't respond.
You said you would tell me how they died on my birthday. And tomorrow's my birthday. They died fighting, didn't they? But when the soldiers come,
She finally turns to face him.
you do nothing. You're a coward, aren't you?
Yes, yes. It was your parents who were brave. I make jams.
And you've never done a brave thing in your life?
He eases himself into a chair and he shrugs.
Maybe there are different ways to be brave. Did you know the French have the best carrier pigeons? And this could be the difference in the war? Our messages getting through?
I don't want to hear about the birds.
They are released at the front and told to go home. This is all they know. But to get there, they must fly over a war. Can you imagine such a thing? Here you are flying over so much pain and terror, and you know you can never look down. You have to look forward, or you'll never get home. I ask you, what could be braver than that?
Emilie sheds a single tear. Interior, the barn at dawn. Grandfather enters the barn and strokes Topthorn's nose as he passes. He sweeps aside a rug from the barn floor to reveal a trapdoor. Then he opens it. Now, from out of a trapdoor, he lifts a big, ungainly object covered in another rug. Interior, farmhouse kitchen, morning. Emilie comes down the stairs as Grandfather waits proudly by the stove. She stops when she sees the object covered by the rug.
What is that?
A present.
Emilie moves towards the object that is covered.
I hope you've not bought me that disgusting dress and then I have to wear it like last year.
It was disgusting.
Yes, I look like an ugly nun.
And she stops herself and turns to Grandfather with a parental rebuke.
Give me your hand.
She takes his hand in hers.
Grandpa, we have no money. When the war is over, then you can buy me jewels and carriages.
Grandfather smiles and gives Emilie a hug.
Anything you say, my sweet one. Anything you say. You are, of course, the boss. It's just an old thing I found. Don't worry yourself. Leave it. I'll put it back.
He leaves the room. Now Emilie is alone and she can't help it when she brings her eyes back to the object covered by the rug. She looks back over her shoulder to make sure she's not being watched, and then she lifts one corner of the rug. Her face explodes with a gorgeous smile. She pulls off the rug that is covering the big thing, and it is a glorious old saddle. She runs her hand across the saddle. She can hardly believe it. Interior, a hill, just beyond the farmhouse, near the windmill. Day. Grandfather helps to swing Emilie up onto the saddle. All at once, the grandfather's charity evaporates.
It was your mother's. I hid it so as not to encourage you, Emilie. I want you to ride very slowly, very carefully, and promise me you won't go far.
Of course. Okay, I promise.
To the top of the hill and straight back again.
I promise.
Emilie unties her hair and tosses the red pennant to the grandfather, releasing her hair to spill down her back and shoulders.
My hero.
She sets off on Joey and quickly spurs him to a gallop.
Slowly! Slowly!
She rides past the windmill and then over the top of a nearby hill. She speeds over it and out of sight. Back to the hill, a sudden change of mood, an empty shot. No movement, no returning girl.
Emilie!
Cut again to the top of the hill, then back to the grandfather, who is very worried.
Emilie!
Topthorn suddenly rears up and charges off, following and sensing danger. Grandfather starts to run in the direction of the hill. Topthorn charging over the brow of the hill, the grandfather running out of breath. He hears an indistinct scream from Emilie. He reaches the top of the hill and comes over the brow, and there is not the fallen body of Emilie, which he has been fearing, but a brutal line of German soldiers and motorbikes. It's like a line of Indians in a western. Total alien fear. And there amongst them is Emilie, astride a panicked Joey, surrounded by soldiers. Another one holds Topthorn, who bucks and rears, but to no avail. Grandfather starts down the hill towards his granddaughter. Exterior, German column near the windmill, the same. The Germans are moving through the horses they have gathered. Emilie, unhorsed, tries to get to Joey, who is being roughly led away by the German soldiers.
No, let go of me. No.
Grandfather grabs her. She is screaming. He tries to calm her down. Joey is tied up to Topthorn. Emilie is kicking and screaming, but also desperately short of breath.
She is my granddaughter, Emilie. Stop. Don't hurt her, please. Don't hurt her.
The soldier roughly shoves Emilie at him. Brandt approaches and Emilie screams at him in tears.
You don't need them. There are so many others.
Emilie is still sobbing. Grandfather hugs her in horror that she is now struggling so hard for breath.
Please, take the bigger one and leave the smaller one. You are breaking my granddaughter's heart.
Brandt leaves.
The war has taken everything from everyone.
Grandfather calls after him.
What will happen to them?
They will be They will be put on artillery until they die,
Francois!
or until the war is over.
It will never be over.
You have your answer then.
Motorbikes start up and drive off, the grandfather hugging tiny Emilie as she coughs. The Germans disappear up the lane, leaving the old man and the child bereft in the bitter cold. Exterior, German camp, later. Two grooms trail Brandt, leaving Joey and Topthorne toward a makeshift corral.
Here, Gluman, these are yours.
Yes, sir.
They look strong. Should last a month or two.
Friederich is an unpossessing, chubby man. He marvels at Topthorne.
You are beautiful.
Then he looks at the other horse pen nearby, haggard and weak. He turns to Joey.
It's a pity they found you.
Takes the leads of the pair of them and he sighs.
Such a pity.
In a strange way, there are many humans Joey meets, but also just one, the spirit of goodness and consideration for animals, joined by the little echoes throughout the film. And then they go over a ridge and we suddenly see the explanation of Friedrich's comment. The road they can see below them is the main through road of the area, and it is a scene of horse horror. Huge, massive guns and cannons and artillery being dragged by teams of horses that are in a terrible condition. For Joey and Topthorne, this is a moment like when soldiers arrived to liberate the prisoners who had been kept in Shanghai prison by the Japanese during World War II. They've never seen horses in this condition. You can see in their eyes the confusion. This is a whole different world where horses can turn into creatures that look like this. And it is also a vision of their future. This may be the moment the mighty Topthorne begins to lose hope. For Joey, it is another level of knowledge, another mighty thing he will fight through because he always fights through. Exterior, steep incline, day. Friederich leads Joey and Topthorne in the wake of the huge Morser, an elaborate 15-ton monstrosity with a 6-inch bore. It takes a team of 6 horses to haul it with a dozen men pushing from behind.
All together!
A soldier calls from the front of the heavy cannon, pulled by a particularly wretched group of horses.
Oh, sorry. Halt. I was on mute. Halt. Halt. Stop.
Lower down the hill, Friederich raves down the rest of the column.
Stop! Stop!
At the front of the Morser, one of the lead horses collapses. He will never get up again. Brandt steps up, pulls a revolver out of his pocket and shoots the horse dead. It has come to this. Joey, Topthorne and all the other horses are spooked by the pistol shot. Brandt shouts to Friederich from the road.
Jägerman, bring up another one.
Egelman, bring up another horse.
That's one.
Friederich begins leading Joey up the hill, but
No, the big black one.
Friederich calls Topthorne hesitantly while Joey watches as he reaches Brandt.
He's a good horse, sir, but if you move him up to the heavy gun, he will be no use at all. Prince is already losing condition. His legs, sir.
You have given them names?
Yes, sir.
You should never give a name to anything you are certain to lose.
His leg is not good enough, sir.
Private, you will do as you're told.
He calls off.
Hook him up.
Friederich has no choice, but as he starts to lead Topthorne, Joey rears up and escapes his groom. He gallops up the hill to the gun, offering himself up to Topthorne. It is in his Tale of Two Cities moment, giving up his life to save his friend. He books and rears. Friederich turns to Brandt.
As you see, sir, this one is stronger.
Brandt takes up Friederich and Joey's offer.
Hook him up.
As Joey is hooked to the gun, he looks back to Friederich, who leads Topthorne back down the hill. Exterior, steep incline, later. The convoy struggles up the hill. Joey feels the dead weight of the gun. These are several tons of cast iron, almost dwarfing the horses. Friederich notices. Together, this grim circus struggles along the potholed country road in the rain. Joey leads the team up the incline. Each step is an immense effort. The going over rough scree is very tough indeed. It is very difficult for Joey to get a foothold on the loose ground, but his experience in Dartmoor comes into play, and although he almost loses his balance several times, he stays upright and hauls the cannon. pitch corrado-like, over the hill. We follow his progress step by step. Friederich watches anxiously. Soldiers strain at the sides of the gun. One throws boards under the wheels to aid the traction. As they reach the top of the hill, it almost seems the effort is too much. The cannon always in danger of rolling back. Joey finally staggering over the top. He feels as though the tethers are going to snap with the strain, but at last the cannon reaches the peak and the crest of the hill. Exterior, the battlefield, day. Soldiers scurry around the giant gun, preparing it.
Halt! Halt! Take the horses away!
Shell!
Friederich observes with Topthorn a giant shell is carried to the gun's breech.
And load!
Load.
Sorry, I
The men
just
wrestle
want to
from
visit me.
place.
Back. Case and secure it. Position.
The barrel of the gun reaches upwards.
And fire.
The shell explodes from the barrel, and then from another and another. For the first time, we see a big picture, the line of assembled cannons on which they were just one tiny part. Each gun recoils violently as they shoot the shells into the oblivion. As soon as one shell is fired, another is loaded. The noise is deafening. The line, seemingly endless, an obscene production line of death. This is what the horses have been feeding, this massive, merciless thing. Smoke wafts from the guns as we see the explosions in the distance. The sound of the explosions takes us to exterior, a British trench at night. Explosions light the dirty faces of British boys in uniform, one after the next. Each light fading out before the next great blast illuminates another anonymous face, and then another, and then another, and then Albert. Hold on to him for a few moments before he fades completely. Exterior, British trenches, early dawn. Title, France, 1918, the Somme. With the barrage lifted, the British soldiers are huddled into a low sub-trench and are ordered back to the line. Andrew Easton is with Albert, and he's shaken and terrified, a far cry from the happy young boy that we knew. A gruff sergeant, Sergeant Martin, walks the trench with a bucket, and each soldier puts their valuables and personal belongings into it. One a lighter, some money, etc.
Valuables in the bucket, lads. If you live, you'll get them back. If you live, you'll get them back. Good lads.
Albert and Andrew move down to the trench in the line of soldiers who are given ammo belts and grenades. Albert gets his grenades and walks further along the trenches. We follow him in real time as he passes a bunch of soldiers who are kneeling in the ankle-deep water. A padre is giving them communion. The deafening noise of shelling all around.
Maybe it's a drill, Albie. Maybe it's a drill like last time.
And we keep following Albert's progress in real time. Further on, there is a post box where they all put their final letters home in identical green envelopes. We see Albert's letter addressed to Ted and Rose Narracot in Devon. He posts it in a battered metal post box. An officer approaches.
Love letter.
That's my business.
It's David Lyons' son, now in charge of this small group of men. Still arrogant, looking older than Albert in his uniform and still clearly enjoying his superior rank.
I hear you and your mate doing bird imitations again. You gonna write a letter to your horse?
Albert ignores him. Andrew can't help but giggle.
After you find your horse, I've lost my needle in a haystack, and I could use some help.
David takes up a bucket and walks down the line of soldiers.
Anything valuable? Anyone who comes back gets to share it out.
Stay here.
Albert follows David down the trench.
Remember that day me and Joey raced you in your car?
I remember you somersaulting through the air.
Who was that girl you were with?
There was a girl?
Albert nods.
There was. Don't you remember?
It was just some girl, I suppose. I don't recall which one. I do remember you falling on your ass in a ditch.
Andrew laughs amiably. David points to him, smirking.
You see? Always entertaining, Narracot. I'll give you that.
As David walks on, Andrew smiles at Albert.
You did that. You fell on your bum.
Albert leaves without answering. Andrew keeps smiling until a large shell explodes nearby. Troops surge towards their ladders as officers scream indistinct orders. Now David leads his troop through the trenches to the front, where they stop, lean against the enemy side wall. Nervously, and they wait. Each man is in a private contemplation. Sergeant Martin moves along the lines, pushing the men forward.
Be ready, be ready. Let's go, man. Get ready to go. Get ready to move out. Stay in position.
David calls out from atop a trench ladder.
Hold your nerve, boys. Remember, it's not far to go. There's a way through.
He moves down the line.
Run fast. Keep your wits, keep your eyes open, and God and the King will keep an eye on you. Company, fix bayonets. Fix bayonets.
The echo of fixed bayonets goes down the line, and every man fixes the brutal shining bayonet to the end of his gun. Then Albert turns to Andrew.
You know what it reminds me of out here?
What?
That bloody impossible lower field the day me and Joey ploughed it. Best day of my life, that was, and you were there.
And this here is the worst day of my life about to begin, and you're here cheering me on. Us two always. And him.
He nods at David Lyons, who gives instructions to another soldier.
Once you're in no man's land, go to the flanks. Stay on the flanks.
Yes, sir.
David
Come on,
turns
boys.
to Albert and Andrew.
Come on, boys. Come on. To the ladder.
And speaks to Andrew.
Stick close to the gentry. That's our ticket, yeah? We have the pluck, but they have the luck.
They both smile, and then the fear takes over again. Andrew particularly feels as though he is on the very edge now. David urges them forward.
You too, Narracot.
Andrew and Albert pass by the bucket. They throw some valuables in, but a moment later, Albert goes back to the bucket and pulls something out. It's a warm piece of paper. He unfolds it. It is the little sketch that Captain Nicholls drew of Joey the night before they left for France. He slips it inside his shirt next to his heart.
Come on your ladders, boy. On your ladders. In you go, in you go. That's it.
Andrew turns towards the ladder. As fate and placement would have it, he is the first in the line. He puts his foot on the ladder, and when suddenly the sergeant stops him.
Listen to your sergeant.
He pulls Andrew aside, speaking so that everyone can hear.
Anybody turns back, any of our boys come running towards you, you take this rifle, you shoot them dead. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
Sergeant pushes in on Andrew, private and intense.
Do you understand me? Do you understand what I'm telling you? Son, you take this rifle and you shoot them dead. Understand?
Andrew looks ready to cry, but manages to nod. Albert turns to him, only to be pushed back by the sergeant.
Up there, son. Up your ladder. Up your ladder to your work.
Albert looks nervously back at Albert, comforting.
Good, Andrew. It's good. Andrew, nobody's retreating today. Andrew, nobody's retreating today.
The commander arrives and checks the time on his aide's watch. He mounts his ladder and blows a whistle to signal the charge. A bagpiper plays the men to go over the top. And now heads up the ladder go first. Gunfire overhead. Albert steels himself and then hauls himself over the top, followed by the next man and the next. Immediately, gun machine fire whistles past. We hear the screams of the first men who were shot, and we follow Albert. We are him, his vision, his experience. The ground is blasted, there are bodies all around him. He tries to run, but his feet stick into the mud. Bullets fly past him. Felled men are screaming at his feet in fear and agony. Albert staggers forward. David is now right by him. They run together. Albert looks
I'm
round.
shot!
Suddenly, David
No!
He falls to the ground screaming, and Albert instinctively goes to help. Bullets shower all around him.
Just leave me! Just leave me!
Albert grabs him and drags him onwards with him. David screaming at the pain. Albert grimly determined. Shells explode around them as they stumble on. Other men are running and falling. Albert sees cover in a huge shell hole, so he dives in it for a moment's reprieve from the gunfire. He sits still in terror for a moment.
You'll be all right here. You'll be safe. Someone will come for you.
Albert, listen!
It's all right. It's all right. We're Devon boys, yeah?
David looks at Albert as though he's seeing him for the first time.
Yeah.
Albert races onwards. Back at the trench, Andrew waits, terrified, and then back at the top of the, back out of the mist step 2 men heading back towards him. Then a third. They suddenly catch sight of Andrew waiting there with his gun poised towards them. They slow down in the terror of the assault, and they had forgotten that death was waiting for them if they turned back. Time seems to slow down. Andrew shifts his gun from his pointing at one to the other. We see the individual faces, and they are all just boys, really. And suddenly, instinct hits Andrew. He charges up the ladder and forward, firing past the 3 men towards the enemy. He chooses his death instead of theirs. A sudden barrage of machine gun fire all around him. Cut back to Albert, who makes his way to the edge of the shell hole. Bullets whiz inches from his head. He looks over to see a German machine gun positioned to his right. Bullets whiz past, forcing him to duck. Andrew charges past other soldiers, ignoring their warnings.
Get down!
Albert forwards to dive into another shell hole, nearer to a German line. He scrambles from shell hole to shell hole, and now he's very close to the machine gun position. Albert takes a grenade and fumbles with the pin as his hands tremble. He finally gets the pin out and he hurls the grenade at the machine gunner. We see the explosion and the machine gun stop. Albert sprints over the top again and makes it all the way to the German trench. He runs through the trench, which seems curiously empty. Albert swings around as he sees the startling face of a gas-masked German holding a rifle on him. Albert readies his bayonet, but the man is dead, slumped backwards against the side of the trench, still upright. Albert spins round, his bayonet rifle in front of him. Ready for action, but there is only the ghostly sight of dead German soldiers. Albert is alone. Everybody else is dead. All the dead wear gas masks. More British soldiers drop into the trench. Among them is Andrew. He stumbles in the mud, drops his rifle and recovers it, and races through the trench. He glimpses Albert ahead of him, stalking through the mist, and Andrew breaks into a smile and rushes forward, prompting Albert to whirl with his rifle raised.
No!
Albert pauses just in time, then he collapses against the side of the trench, overwhelmed.
Albie?
Andrew grabs Albert and holds him up, embracing him. Albert can barely whisper.
We made it! We made it!
A moment later, the pair of them hurry through the trenches. Albert spots more comrades around a corner and calls ahead to Andrew.
Andrew! This way out!
Suddenly, another soldier leaps from a trench behind them, shouting in panic.
Gas! Gas! Gas!
An instant later, a gas cloud blasts through the trench, and Andrew and Albert look in horror. It spreads towards them, too powerful to avoid. Andrew is closest. He turns to Albert with a helpless...
Albie?
Before he takes the full power of it, an instant later, the white, deadly cloud encompasses Albert too. Exterior, the edge of the battlefields at dusk. Close on hooves and boots slogging through muddy water, several inches deep. Friederich is walking along, leading Topthorne and Joey. Topthorne is limping. Something is wrong. Topthorne seems to be failing. He coughs badly, breathes strangely. Friederich stops to check on him, and an officer notices.
Ella.
No, I'm Friedrich, not
Sorry.
the officer.
Hey, there's no stopping here. Keep them moving.
Sir, there's something wrong. This one needs to rest.
There's no rest for them. Move them along. Move them along.
Instead, Friederich lays the horses under the cover of a low bridge for a brief respite. A moment later, Topthorne collapses.
Please, 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 stay on your feet. No, please, no, no, no.
Friederich tries to help Topthorne, valiantly struggling to get up, but finally he sinks to the ground again. And he lies semi-conscious. He is dying.
Please, please, stay on your feet.
Joey, deeply upset, nuddles his nose into Topthorne, but the life drains out of him. Friederich is in panic at Topthorne's quick decline.
Come on, please, please.
Friederich continues to stroke Topthorne's head. Joey pushes Topthorne as if to stop him falling into unconsciousness. For a moment we think Topthorne will come round, but he slips away and all life leaves his body. Friederich solemnly strokes the horse, knowing all is lost. Joey does not understand. He pulls at Topthorne's reins as if trying to pull him upright. Topthorne's body is inert, his head falls to the earth. Joey will not give up. He pulls at him desperately, not understanding that Topthorne has died. Suddenly, Friederich looks around. Chaos. All the German soldiers stream back past their position, scrambling to get their guns and their helmets. An officer charges down the bank next to the bridge, screaming orders at Friederich.
They're coming. Leave it, Private.
Friederich tries to pull Joey away to safety, but Joey will not leave Topthorn's body. Friederich pulls at Joey, but Joey is too lost in his grief to care about or even notice the danger.
Leave it. Come with me.
Go to hell.
The officer nods to the other soldiers who pull Friederich to safety, and he is dragged away. He screams at Joey.
Run, 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 run.
But all of this is background noise to Joey's profound refusal to accept that Topthorn is dead. He pauses at the ground next to Topthorn, a horse standing over his best friend in a field, and he will never leave him. And suddenly, from around a blind turn in the steam bed, a huge remorseless tank turns, heading right for Joey. He bolts, galloping down the steam bed until he reaches a barbed wire barrier, a dead end. He attempts to run up the banks, but they're blocked as well. He rears up, but the tank keeps advancing. The tank is about to crush Joey. He has left it too late. He is about to die. But then counterintuitively, he runs straight towards the tank and he leaps over it. A leap that he learned from Emilie. Then he scrambles up and out and over and leaps down behind. Joey keeps on running. He's wild and frightened. Exterior, countryside, village or trench, the same. Joey is free in the countryside, but there is blood pouring from his leg, clearly torn by his encounter with the tank. He runs on. It is becoming night. Suddenly there are explosions to the left of him, then fast, elegant creatures simply run through the gaps between the explosions. But as he charges on, the sky lights up in the direction he is heading. He is suddenly in the thick of a battle. A shell explodes next to him and he leaps entirely over a trench. Another explosion sends him leaping, but not far enough. He finds himself crashing downwards and into a trench, and he races through it and finds himself charging towards a German company. Both sides are equally startled. Joey charging through a main thin trench lined with German soldiers, and the soldiers finding a live horse careering towards them. In desperation, Joey scrambles out of the trench and once again rushes away from the fighting. But now it is very dark indeed. He is stumbling as he runs, and there is blood mixed with the mud on his legs. Now it is total night, fog, confusion. He jumps again. And now everywhere there are potholes. The land is massively uneven. Shells are exploding all around, and suddenly he sees in front of him barbed wire. He crashes through it. More, he bursts through it again, now dragging barriers with him. The barriers tangle, pulling him up short, and he flips and lands almost amongst even more barbed wire. He pulls and turns to release himself, but it is impossible. The more he pulls, the more firmly he is trapped. He rises up wild and magnificent, a beast fighting for his life. He is completely trapped. He cannot move. He cannot see. He is in pain. He falls, and it feels like an end. Exterior, British trench, the same.
Stand to, stand to.
A young soldier, a Geordie, is on the lookout duty. He looks through a periscope and he alerts his colleague in his thick northern Newcastle accent.
There's something moving.
Mandy.
I'm sorry, I'm lost. Oh, got it. What the hell is it?
It looks like a cow.
He passes the periscope to the second soldier.
What the hell would a cow be doing out there?
We see what he sees. Nothing but morning mist on the surreal landscape and something strange. It is Joey in the distance.
Definitely isn't a cow.
He hands over the periscope.
Well, what is it? Sorry.
Exterior, German trench, the same. We see an almost identical scene of several German soldiers looking out at Joey, just as the British soldiers had done.
It can't be a horse. Nothing alive could be out there.
It isn't a horse. It isn't a horse.
Second German looks through his periscope and we see that he sees Joey in the mist.
Yes, he's a horse.
The first German looks through the periscope, stunned.
It's a horse.
A third German called Peter lowers his binoculars.
Yes, it's a horse.
Exterior British trenches the same. Now all the soldiers are gathering to look at Joey. The captain now has the periscope.
Oh, well, bugger me. It is a horse.
Lads, we should call him.
How?
How do you call a horse?
The Geordie starts clicking his tongue, followed by all of the comrades. They all try to attract Joey's attention with tongue clicks. Exterior German trench the same. The Germans hear the clicks and respond with a chorus of whistles. Exterior British trenches the same. Now both sides are whistling. Even the captain joins in. Exterior no man's land the same. Joey tries to rise, but he remains entangled. He whinnies in the pain. Exterior German trench the same. Peter lowers his binoculars.
He's caught on the wire.
External British trenches the same.
Oh, sod it.
Geordie climbs up to the side of the trench and he waves a white handkerchief tied to the end of his bayonet.
What do you think you're doing? Get back. Do you hear me, Corporal? That is an order. Get back.
Geordie, not receiving fire, is emboldened to stand up.
Listen to him, sir. We can't leave him.
He waves the handkerchief to clearly signal that he is no threat. Exterior German trench the same. The Germans look at the young soldier making his way across no man's land.
What's he doing?
Who's first German? Who's first German?
John.
Ooh. It's a trap.
No, I don't think so. I think he's trying to help.
The first German cocks his rifle and starts to take aim.
Scare him back into his all.
The first German takes a shot aimed over the Geordie soldier. Exterior, no man's land the same. The Geordie crouches for cover, waving his handkerchief more frantically.
It's a white flag, ain't it? You see the white flag. I don't know what my accent's doing, sorry. You see the white flag. I'm just after tending this here horse is all.
Why, I am just here to tend the horses.
Why am I?
Geordie marshals his courage and
Canny
stands
horse.
again, waving his handkerchief.
Get back, you stupid git.
There's no fire from the German trenches. Muttering to himself, the Geordie marches forwards towards Joey.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He leadeth me into green pastures. He lay me down beside the still waters.
Geordie walks very slowly across the mud. Her bodies. The ground squashes beneath his feet and he waves his handkerchief as he walks. He crosses a narrow bridge that spans a flooded bomb crater. Joey, lying on his side, wrapped head to toe in barbed wire, is covered in mud, and he watches as the Geordie approaches. When Geordie gets too close, Joey freaks out and begins thrashing about. Joey whinnies a high scream of pain because the wire is cutting into his hide in several places. As he thrashes, it cuts him deeper. Particularly worrisome is the strand that's wrapped around his head, crossing right over his eye, threatening to slash it open. The Geordie calls out in a soothing voice,
Poor beastie, poor babby. It's alright, it's alright. Didn't buck and wriggle so you fuck's sake. You're only shredding yourself.
Joey calms a little, still moving his head up and down.
You'll blind yourself.
He reaches Joey and surveys the formidable tangle of wire in which Joey's bundled. Then Antor Deck soothes out at the same time, he tests on the strands, trying to figure out where to begin. I don't know which one it is. Tries to figure out where to begin.
Bugger me worthless. I didn't think to bring gloves or something to cut the...
He stabs his hand on one of the barbs.
Ow! Damn! Ow!
There's a noise behind him and the Geordie turns around to see Peter, the German from the trench, standing several feet away holding some wire cutters.
I thought perhaps you might need these.
He holds the wire cutters. The Geordie, still frightened, stares stupidly at them.
For the barbed wire?
Yeah, thanks. Cheers.
He reaches out and takes the proffered cutters.
Thanks.
He returns to Joey, nervously about turning his back. He tries to figure out where to begin cutting. He lifts a long strand of wire that wraps around Joey's neck and stretches across his shoulder and torso and around one of his front legs. He puts the wire in the crooks of the cutters and is preparing to snip it when Peter steps closer to him.
That's a very long strand. When you cut it, it's going to release this.
He points to a wire wrapped around the wire that Geordie's lifting, and then he points to two of the wires similarly entangled.
And this, and they'll coil back rather violently, which I'm afraid will only wound the poor fellow further.
Since when would a German say fella? Geordie not.
No, yeah.
You speak good English. Better than me.
Why?
I speak English well.
Regarding the cutters,
May I?
Geordie hands them over and Peter surveys the wires.
What if we cut his head free first, so he won't try to stand up and blind himself, and then...
Pity you didn't bring a second pair. Then I could cut the wire here.
He points to one of the wires entangled with the strand that he'd been prepared to cut. Peter stands and shouts in the direction of his trench.
We need more wire cutters.
All at once, 2, 3, 6 pairs of cutters come, soaring through the air and splash into the watery crater. Moments later, Peter and the Geordie kneel beside Joey, each with a pair of cutters. Joey is calming down again. The Geordie positions himself across Joey's body so that when he cuts the wire, it won't call back and cut Joey. Peter positions himself to be able to cut 2 wires in quick succession, holding the first wire to stop it from springing back. Joey's completely still now. Peter points between Joey's eyes.
His blind spot. The cutters won't frighten him. If you could cut here, holding this wire.
He points to the wires that intersect the wires that cross Joey's eye. Then he points to the wire across Joey's eye.
I could...
Say no more. I'm right behind you.
As they reposition themselves, the Geordie says to Joey,
And you understand what's happening, do you not, oh best beloved? That you must lay so very nice and still. There's a lad. You're a remarkable horse, you are, helping us help you. There's a lad. There's a remarkable lad. So, how's things in yonder trench?
Delightful. We read, we knit sweaters, and we train our rats to perform circus tricks.
Well, if ever you need any more rats, we can always send ours over. Because we've more than we need, strictly speaking. Besides, they scare off all the pretty girls.
Our girls aren't afraid of rats.
Big strapping German girls, eh? Kind what gives robust massages.
Every Thursday, and they bring rum cake on your birthday.
Both men smile at this while Joey is completely still. They work quickly in concert, cutting the horse's head free of the wire. Joey raises his head, gives it a shake, neighs, and then stirs a little. The 2 soldiers smile at one another. Then they set about cutting the rest of the wire. It is much easier now. The Geordie cuts through the last wire, binding Joey's legs. The 2 soldiers help as the horse staggers upright.
Look at that horse. Look at the muscles he's got. Them long legs. They're made for running horses, running away from danger.
Running away is all they have.
Yet we taught them opposite, running into the fray.
War horse.
Yeah, war horse. And there he is. What a strange beast you've become.
The Geordie grabs hold of Joey's halter, though Joey shows no sign of running. Joey is finally free. The 2 men look at each other.
And now?
I take him back with me, yeah?
Since I supplied the cutters, the horse is mine. This is fair, no?
In a pig's eye, he's English, plain to see.
Oh, you mean because he's so filthy?
Because he's so smart, and you're none too clean yourself.
We could box, and the winner gets the horse.
The Geordie smiles.
No thanks, pet. Must be careful not to start a war.
Patting in his pocket.
Do you have any coin? Do you have a coin of any sort?
Coin toss?
Yeah.
Takes a coin from his pocket and hands it to the Geordie, who looks at it.
All right, Fritz, you're on.
He flips the coin back to Peter.
My name is not Fritz. It is Peter.
Peter, I'm Colin.
You call it, Colin.
Heads.
Peter spins it in the air and lets it fall to the mud. They look down and Peter shakes his head, resigned.
That's the face of my Kaiser, and he does not look pleased with me. The horse is yours.
They collect the helmets as the snow begins to blow around them.
Gone quiet, hasn't it?
I've just lost my script, so that's fun.
Yeah.
Your answer is yes.
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 Yeah.
A pause.
But wait half an hour and we'll be shooting again.
I'm a terrible shot, Pete. Don't believe I'll ever hit the target.
Hands back the cutters.
Somebody read in for me.
Thanks.
He notices that Geordie has offered his hand as well. A beat, then Peter shakes with him.
Cheerio, mate.
See, they could even shake hands back then. We can't even do that now.
Quite.
Chloe.
You take good care of him, yes?
I will.
Our strange beast.
And you take care of your own strange self.
Peter tosses Geordie his cutters.
Colin, a pair of German cutters in memory of your handsome friend from Dusseldorf.
Thanks.
Peter nods and walks back to his trench. As he goes, the Geordie calls after him.
I'll use 'em back in the garden in South Shields. You keep your head down now, Pete, me lad.
As he walks away, Pete turns back briefly, calling.
Remarkable. A remarkable horse.
The Geordie leads Joey towards the British trenches. Exterior of the trenches the same. Joey is now in the trenches, splashing about in the ankle-deep water. He seems enormous in his cramped labyrinth. He is led past the broken and wounded soldiers who look at him with amazement, dumbfounded. It is a surreal image, the horse where horses should not be. As Joey makes his journey through the trenches, soldiers excitedly gather to watch him come by, taking pleasure in the saving of this single life. Exterior of the trenches the same. We arrive at a section we recognise as the place from where Albert set off only the night before. Sergeant Martin is there. As one man helps a wounded soldier into a medical area, it is David, hobbling and looking shell-shocked. Another wounded soldier approaches, but Martin waves him on.
We're full up. Move on.
David is seated next to Albert, who now seems in worse condition. His eyes are bandaged and he is wheezing. Andrew is nowhere to be seen, as the medical officer checks Albert over.
The gas got him. We'll have to wait till morning.
The medic moves to Sergeant Martin, looking stricken.
This can't be all of us.
This is all.
Bellowing to the men.
All walking wounded, away to the dressing station. Away to the dressing station.
Exterior hospital area later. Joey is led into the hospital area beyond the trenches. The Geordie leads him through the snowy streets, bandaged men strewn about and wounded soldiers waiting for attention. The waiting soldiers gather to view a strange spectacle of the horse. At one of the dressing areas, a nurse tends to Albert's damaged eyes. Behind him, we see Joey pass in the street, but Albert doesn't know it. Joey limps, his foreleg clearly injured. The Geordie soldier steps outside a makeshift hospital. Joey looks frail and exhausted. A doctor storms over from his patients.
What's this doing here?
We need a vet, sir.
There are no vets. We've scarcely got any horses left.
He's cut all over, but this leg is his. They've got the worst of it.
The Geordie strokes Joey as the doctor examines him.
It's probably tetanus. It's no good.
Please, sir.
The doctor heads back into the hospital, dismissive.
I've all these men to take care of, Corporal. You can see that, can't you?
Please, sir. This horse can pull through anything.
The doctor absorbs his earnest appeal. Exterior intensive care tent, same. Elsewhere, a line of soldiers waiting for medical assistance are curious about what is going on. Blinded by the gas, eyes are bandaged. One of them turns towards the commotion. It is Albert.
What is it?
It's a horse they found wandering around in no man's land.
easing him back onto a cot.
Down you go.
What kind of an horse?
Bloody miraculous kind of an horse. Be my guess. Nothing makes it out of no man's land.
Albert lies there but can't let go of the thought.
Miraculous horse?
Exterior, hospital area, same. Joey stands breathing very deeply. The doctor touches his wounded leg. The men from all over the medical area gather around Joey, concerned about their new hero's pain. The doctor looks at the Geordie and frowns, shaking his head.
He was alive, you see, sir, where nothing survives. So, to me and me mates, to the men, sir, well, we have high hopes for him.
You should shoot him now.
The Geordie is broken-hearted.
Oh, but I can't.
It'd be a mercy, lad. That leg's not going to mend.
The doctor sadly addresses a nearby sergeant.
Sergeant, put him out of his misery.
The doctor nods his head towards Joey, and the Sergeant Fry, takes his gun from his holster, checks that it's loaded, and then he turns to the nearby nurses, urging them away.
Ladies, if you please.
Total silence from the crowd who have gathered. They thought that they were here to see something wonderful, and now they find they've gathered for an execution. But they can't take their eyes off it. The sergeant waves them back.
All right, back off, back off.
The Geordie is the last to step away from Joey. The sergeant draws breath before he steps forward to take aim. Joey is totally still. Sensing the atmosphere, the sergeant cocks his pistol. Suddenly there is a strange owl-like whistle from 50 yards away, and Joey looks around, startled. The sergeant... I love that you're blind as well. The sergeant turns Joey's head back around, raises his pistol once more. Then the whistle again. Even the doctor notices this time. Joey turns slowly. The crowd parts and another owl whistle. And we see Albert, his eyes bandaged, walking forward blindly, guided by the hands of the crowd. One soldier urges Albert gently.
Go on, do it again. One more whistle.
Joey?
This time Joey trots over to Albert. The horse nuzzles into him and Albert can't see that Joey, but he touches him.
Hello, Joey. Hello, boy. Where you been then, eh? Where in the world you been?
He strokes Joey's mane. Joey responds, becoming very still. The doctor approaches with the Geordie.
Do you know this man?
The Geordie shakes his head no. The doctor speaks to Albert, gently. Clearly he thinks he's dealing with a traumatised, possibly crazy soldier.
What's your name?
Albert, realising he's being addressed, turns to the doctor.
Narracot. Private Albert Narracot, sir.
This is a random horse, Narracot, and too badly injured.
To the orderly.
Is this man in your care?
Yes, sir.
It's not random at all, sir. It's my horse. I raised him in Devon, sir. Look at his legs. He's got 4 white socks. He's brown all over.
He points to his own forehead.
And he has a white mark here, like so.
He makes the shape of a diamond with his hands, and the doctor turns to the orderly.
Take him back.
Come on, son.
Wait,
Where's-
you can't see because of the mud.
The Geordie looks around, spots a bucket of water and grabs it, and uses a rag to clean Joey's legs, revealing the socks. The Geordie looks at the doctor.
4 white socks.
The doctor takes a rag himself and wipes Joey's snout, revealing the white diamond mark. The sergeant takes this in and holsters his pistol.
All right, break it up. Clear off the lot of you.
You see, sir, he's not random at all.
The doctor steps up to him.
We will attend to your horse. Patch him up the best we can. Treat him like the soldier he is.
Thank you, sir.
With one last amazed look at Albert and Joey, the doctor returns to the hospital area. Moments later, Albert and the Geordie and Sergeant Fry all lead Joey through the snowy streets together. Exterior mess hall, early morning. Sergeant Fry strides into the middle of the throng of soldiers.
Gentlemen, gentlemen, it falls on me to give you some important news. At 11 o'clock today, in 2 minutes' time, the war will come to an end.
Shock from the troops, strangely muted. Not the explosion of emotion you might have expected. Albert enters, his eyes still red but no longer bandaged.
The King and Queen thank you for your service. We have been victorious, even if at a higher price than many of us might have imagined. When the bells ring out, and they will in a moment, for the first time for 4 years, let us remember our brothers fallen in the field and thank God for the end of this struggle and victory.
And in the distance, the church bells ring. Interior stables the same. Joey stands tall, eating some hay, now healed. Interior field office day. Complete change of atmosphere, silence, tension. Albert stands at attention with Sergeant Fry. The severe major is behind his desk.
I don't understand, sir.
Officers' horses only. All other horses to be auctioned immediately.
That is a complete and bloody outrage. It's the lad's horse, sir, from Devon. He raised him up from a pup, he did. Trained him right up to the day when the army came to town.
These aren't my orders, Sergeant.
He turns to Albert.
You'll have to take him to the market, that's all.
Interior stables day. Albert puts on a brave face as he collects Joey and leads him out of the stables in silence. Exterior of the stables the same. As Albert comes out, the men have gathered. There's a strange sense of optimism, such a gloomy moment. The Geordie comes up to Albert and hands him a sheaf of pound notes.
We've all clubbed together. It's everything we have. There's £29 there. Buy him back.
Does the Major know?
The Major put in 10.
Geordie flashes a sly wink.
Mum's the word where the Major's concerned. Your friend on the crutches over there.
Turns to indicate David Lyons, who nods at Albert solemnly.
Even asked the Major to say that Joey was his, an officer's horse, so that he could go back with the others.
Albert is amazed. He's about to show his gratitude when the Sergeant Major shouts,
Come on, Narracot, get a move on. We don't want to miss the show.
Albert snaps to attention and begins to lead Joey out of the parade ground with the other horses. As they walk off, the sergeant silently adds some of his own money to the notes in Albert's hand. Exterior marketplace day. The intense bustle of the market, farmers are gathered, bidding for the horses.
£7, £7 there, £7, £8 here.
A groom leads Joey to the auction pen with the other horses.
£8, £10 here. Any advance? Sold.
Interior auction pen the same. Albert waits anxiously. The Geordie lad by his side as Joey is led into the pen.
You're all right. Nobody's gonna bid more than 15 for a thoroughbred. They want workhorses.
The auctioneer starts the bidding on Joey.
Next one, we start at £4. £4?
The farmers seem disinterested, shaking their heads. The bidding starts. £5, 6, 7. Now it goes slowly. 8, 9, 10. Albert looks pleased at how it's going. He feels the cash in his hand. It seems to stick on 10. Then a new hand comes up at the back of the auction. It's a nasty-looking mustachioed man.
11.
Sergeant Fry scowls.
It's the butcher from Cambrai. He's been bidding for the best all morning.
11, £11, £11.
Let me handle this, Private.
He calls out.
15, and let that be an end to it.
He looks daggers at the butcher.
£15?
16.
£16?
17.
24 of your English pounds, and that be the end of it, my friend.
£20.
25.
£25.
26.
£26.
The men are all looking very worried. There is not much left.
27.
28.
£28.
29.
And 30.
Any advance at £30?
Then from the back, another new French voice.
£100.
He steps to the front of the crowd, and suddenly we see who it is. It is Emilie's grandfather.
And sir, if you bid against me, I will sell the coat on my back and bid to 110. And if you bid against me again, I will sell my farm and bid to 1,000.
Everyone looks at Albert, who is devastated. Albert is reeling. He hears the auctioneer repeat the final amount and brings down his gavel.
£100. Going, gone.
The soldiers all slowly disperse, leaving Albert to stare at Joey. It really is all over. Exterior, the auction the same. The grandfather finishes paying for Joey, and Albert and the Geordie stand in front of the grandfather.
Sir, I'll give you all your money. Everything you paid when we get back to England. I'll give you twice.
You don't know anything about him.
Oh, but you're wrong, sir. I know everything.
Yes, you found him. I heard you found a horse in the wire between the armies.
No, I found him. He raised him.
The grandfather goes to Joey and takes his reins.
When I heard about the miracle horse, I travelled 3 days because I knew whose horse it was. My granddaughter's. She saved his life. He was everything to her.
He pauses briefly to collect himself.
Where is your granddaughter?
The war has taken everything from everyone. He is all that I have left of her.
The grandfather leads Joey away. Joey pulls firmly, but not wildly, on the rein that the grandfather is holding. The grandfather lets go. He watches as Joey walks to Albert and nuzzles him. They have a moment together. The grandfather watches carefully. Albert puts his face right near Joey and speaks gently.
Don't be worried, boy, when I go. I won't worry over you none. Hey, I found you, didn't I? And you found me.
The grandfather softens and begins to wonder about the soldier.
And we'll both know that we made it through. Now go on.
He leads Joey back to the grandfather.
We're the lucky ones. Always have been. Lucky since the day I met you.
Quietly hands over the reins.
God be with you, sir.
The grandfather looks at Albert, then takes the regimental pennant from his pocket.
Do you know what this is?
Albert is amazed.
It's my father's. It's his regimental pendant. How did you come by this, sir?
The grandfather hands Albert the pennant.
You may have this.
Albert takes the pennant and looks at it, his eyes filling with tears.
Thank you ever so much for this, sir.
With a sigh.
And this?
He hands Albert Joey's reins. Albert turns to face him, almost mute with disbelief. He reaches for his money.
No, not necessary. He belonged to you. That is, of course, what my little girl would have wanted. And she was the boss.
The grandfather laughs and then turns and slowly walks away.
What was her name?
Emilie. Her name is Emilie.
Albert gently embraces Joey. Exterior field in Devon at dusk. Suddenly we are back in the village in Devon, in the fold of the valley. Dusk light, a figure approaches, silhouetted against the setting sun. Rosie Narracot gathers the harvest and then notices as the figure makes its way up the road to the farm. A man in uniform on a magnificent horse. Rosie Narracot meets them at the gate and we can finally see them clearly. Albert and Joey. Albert dismounts and removes his cap. An instant later, Rosie Narracot is hugging him for all that her life is worth. Exterior, another part of the field in Devon, the same. Ted sees them and makes his way to the field gate. Shaky. Albert approaches and stops a slight distance away. Ted opens the gate to stand before his son. Albert slips something from his pocket and lets it unfurl in his hand. Ted's campaign pennant. Ted accepts it quietly, then offers his hand to Albert. They shake as men, and then slowly embrace as father and son. Rosie Narracot joins them as Joey looks on. A small family and a beautiful warhorse finally home. The end.